Earthquake!
Run! Quick!
看看看，房子都快塌了！我老板们
It's an earthquake. The house is going to collapse. Gotta run faster. Earthquake, a big one. Gotta run. After the earthquake, a man rushed out of the hotel as cracks appeared on its walls. Debris littered the stairwell, and rubble covered the streets outside. The road was scattered with fallen bricks, with only a few pedestrians in sight. The scene was shrouded in a gray haze. At around 9 a.m. on January 7th, a 6.8 magnitude earthquake struck Dingri County in Shigatse, Tibet. The quake caused significant casualties and widespread destruction, with many buildings collapsing. The earthquake's shallow depth of only 10 kilometers resulted in intense shaking. Following the quake, many buildings and walls in Dingri County collapsed, leaving piles of scattered debris. The streets were in complete disarray. Surveillance footage from a local supermarket showed shelves shaking violently during the earthquake, with goods tumbling to the floor. Some local business owners in Dingri reported that everyone rushed to the streets after the quake. They said, cabinets and doors in the store cracked open, some items fell to the ground, walls developed cracks, and tiles came loose. Many survivors have shared their first-hand experiences of the earthquake. Someone must have been hit, probably tourists. At first, we didn't feel much when the earthquake started because we were still in the mountains. But once we got to the small town, the quake was really intense. Almost everyone was sitting by the roadside. There were falling rocks in the mountains. At the school, all the students had gathered on the playground. The restaurant we had booked for our meal had cracks in the building, and stones from the upper floors fell onto cars, completely smashing them. We were lucky to pass through safely. Now the area has been sealed off, and no one is allowed in.
躺在床上刷手机，整个房间全在抖。
I was lying on the bed at Rongbuk Guest House near Everest, scrolling on my phone. Suddenly, the whole building started shaking violently. Honestly, I thought it was an avalanche at first, but when the shaking lasted for about 10 seconds and didn't stop, I got really scared. I quickly put on my shoes and looked out the window. When I didn't see any snow falling, I realized it was an earthquake. After that, there were a lot of aftershocks on and off. The epicenter was less than 100 kilometers from me. On the ride back to Tashicong Township, the driver kept making phone calls. He was crying uncontrollably, choking up as he spoke. He told me that most of the houses in this village had collapsed, including his own. He's now homeless, and many people from his area have already left. Vehicles providing disaster relief were seen streaming toward the affected areas. In Latse County, where the route passed through, many houses had collapsed or were severely damaged. Tashicong Township in Dingri County, located at the foot of Mount Everest, is the closest township to the Everest Base Camp. It is also a key point for reaching tourist destinations like Mount Everest, Lhotse, and the Gamma Valley on Everest's eastern slope. Manager Zhang Chaofan of the Pingtuo Kangcang Hotel near the Everest Base Camp said, "It's currently the off-season for tourism at Everest. During the peak season, it's hard to book a room, but now we only have about a dozen occupied rooms daily." After the earthquake, frightened guests rushed outside and gathered with locals in the streets. After calming his guests, Zhang drove around the town to assess the damage. He saw that some residents' homes had collapsed or been severely damaged. His hotel also suffered cracks in its walls, with pieces of plaster and cement scattered along the hallways. Qin Bao and her husband were in Latse County, 60 kilometers from the epicenter, when the earthquake struck. The restaurant, opened just a year ago, sustained heavy damage, with rubble scattered across its entrance. Recalling the moment, Qin Bao said she was terrified, but managed to run outside immediately.
早上8点12分的时候，然后手机响了嘛，就是
A little after 8 a.m., it was still dark. My phone sounded a quake warning, but we didn't pay much attention and kept sleeping because it doesn't get fully bright here until 8:40. Around 9 a.m., another warning went off, and then the house started shaking violently. We couldn't even stand properly. We opened the door and went outside. Bricks were falling everywhere, and cars across the street were smashed. Inside the houses, walls were completely cracked. In our village, someone in the village committee office was injured and had to be taken away by firefighters and an ambulance.
Qinbao reported that her village is currently without electricity, but still has internet access. Villagers are staying outdoors for safety. A 34-year-old supermarket owner in Dingri County, Sangji Dangzhi, told AFP that his business suffered severe damage. The situation is very serious, he said, adding that ambulances had been transporting people to the hospital all day. He explained that many houses in the area are made of mud, which caused widespread collapse during the earthquake.
这里是西藏的日喀则，今天1月7号啊。
This is Shigatse, Tibet. At 9:05 a.m. on January 7th, a massive earthquake struck Dingri County in Shigatse. Look at the mountain slopes. Rocks have slid down everywhere. Here's some surveillance footage. You can see that many houses have already collapsed. Rescue efforts are underway, and workers are actively searching through the rubble. The power of this earthquake is truly overwhelming. Watching these scenes, it's hard to stay calm. The destruction is terrifying. This place has turned into ruins, with devastation everywhere. Survivors of the Shigatse earthquake in Tibet said they've been sharing communal meals with neighbors and sleeping in tents.
当时我睡得很香，突然就震起来了。
I was sleeping soundly when the quake hit, and the house started shaking violently. Now we can't even return to the house. It's on the verge of collapsing. In the neighboring village, most of the houses have already fallen. I'm so scared of losing the people closest to me in this disaster. A resident of Shigatse's city center, Tan Chengjiao, said she was shaken awake by the earthquake. At first, she thought it was a prank, imagining someone was shaking her bed. She said, but when I opened my eyes, I saw the lights, hanging clothes, and the whole house shaking. I knew something was wrong. I immediately ran downstairs and found many others had done the same. Some people were wearing black coats and flip-flops. Fearing aftershocks, she later headed to her workplace. According to China Central Television (CCTV), initial investigations as of 7 p.m. on January 7th confirmed 126 casualties and 188 injuries from the Dingri County earthquake. Among the injured, 28 critically ill individuals have been transferred to the city hospital for treatment. A total of 3,609 houses have collapsed. Local power and water supply systems have been disrupted. Given the Chinese Communist Party's history of underreporting major disasters, the true number of lives lost could be significantly higher than the official figures. Dingri County is located in China's southwestern border region, at the foot of Mount Everest, sharing a southern border with Nepal. The county has an average altitude of 4,500 meters and covers an area of 14,000 square kilometers. It consists of 2 towns and 11 townships, with a total population of over 60,000, making it the most populous border county in Tibet. The Everest Scenic Area lies within Dingri County, part of the Tibet Autonomous Region's Shigatse Prefecture. Home to the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, it draws visitors from all around the globe. Some individuals heading to climb Mount Everest reported that their cars shook violently during the earthquake. Others described being shaken awake, saying it felt like someone was shaking the bed and the whole house was trembling. On the morning of January 7th, a staff member from the Everest Scenic Area in Dingri County confirmed that all tourist buses scheduled to visit the area had ceased operations. The scenic area has been completely closed and will reopen depending on aftershock activity. Nearby, footage from Lhatse County showed the winding mountain roads near Mount Everest's 108 bends covered with debris. This area has also been temporarily closed. The owner of the Everest Nyoto Hotel in Basung Village, Tsungring Gedan, said the entire hotel shook during the quake, causing beverage cabinets to topple over. When he ran to an open area outside, he saw villagers gathering there. Power was immediately cut off in the village after the earthquake. Tsering noted that this was the strongest quake he had felt since the devastating 2015 Nepal earthquake. A supervisor at the Chinese Academy of Sciences Everest Atmospheric and Environmental Research Station, Xi Zhenhua, recalled running outside wrapped in a blanket after seeing a notification of a 6.8 magnitude quake on his phone. The building shook violently, and crashing sounds echoed everywhere. At the time, temperatures near the Everest station were below minus 20 degrees Celsius, and villagers from nearby areas also rushed to open spaces for safety. By 9 p.m. on January 7th, local temperatures had dropped to minus 6 degrees Celsius and were expected to fall further to minus 18 degrees overnight. The freezing temperatures and poor visibility at night posed significant challenges for ongoing rescue efforts. Professor Wang Dun from China University of Geosciences told domestic media that rescue operations in high-altitude areas are extremely challenging. Dingri County, at an average altitude of 4,500 meters, has thin oxygen levels, which rescue personnel must adapt to. The remote location of the epicenter and potential damage to transportation infrastructure further complicate the delivery of heavy equipment and the evacuation of individuals. Wang also warned that the current cold winter temperatures could further threaten the survival of those trapped under debris. According to the China Meteorological Administration, daytime temperatures in Dingri County are around minus 8 degrees Celsius, dropping to minus 18 at night. Survivors have been forced to gather around bonfires outdoors to stay warm. As of 6 p.m. on January 7th, officials reported 150 aftershocks, with 19 measuring above magnitude 3. The strongest aftershock registered at 4.4, approximately 18 kilometers from the main quake's epicenter. In sparsely populated Tibetan areas, losing more than 100 lives indicates a significant earthquake. The 2008 Wenchuan earthquake, the deadliest earthquake to hit China since 1976, was initially reported as a magnitude 7, but was later revised to magnitude 8. The U.S. Geological Survey (USGS) also detected a magnitude 7.1 earthquake in Tibet on the same day, with tremors felt in neighboring Nepal. Shigatse lies along the Himalayan seismic belt, one of the world's 3 major seismic zones. It is a region prone to frequent earthquakes. As Tibet's second largest city and a center of religion, politics, economy, and culture, Shigatse has been designated a National Historic and Cultural City. It has a population of approximately 800,000 and is located about 300 kilometers from Lhasa, Tibet's largest city. According to statistics from the Southern Metropolis Daily, 21 earthquakes of magnitude 6 or higher have occurred in the Lhasa block since 1950. The strongest was the 6.9 magnitude Mi-Lin earthquake in 2017. This earthquake in Dingri County is considered another release of energy in the Lhasa block. So why are earthquakes so frequent in Tibet's Shigatse region? Associate Professor Tianbing Wei from Sichuan University's Institute for Disaster Management and Reconstruction explained that the 6.8 magnitude earthquake in Dingri County is a tectonic earthquake. The region lies at the boundary between the Indian and Eurasian plates. The continuous northward compression by the Indian plate against the Eurasian plate creates immense stress, causing the crustal rocks to fracture and shift, resulting in earthquakes. He also noted that this quake, with a shallow depth of 10 kilometers, was particularly destructive. Tian pointed out that within 200 kilometers of the epicenter, 29 earthquakes of magnitude 3 or higher have occurred in the past 5 years. The most significant in the past decade was the 8.1 magnitude Nepal earthquake in 2015, which severely affected Shigatse with loss of life and destruction. As Nepal and Tibet's Shigatse region both lie along the Himalayan seismic belt, Nepal is also likely to experience impacts from this earthquake. Although Nepal also experienced significant tremors, no major damage or casualties have been reported. An official from Nepal's National Emergency Operations Center told the BBC that there were only minor damage and cracks in buildings. In 2015, an earthquake in Nepal resulted in nearly 9,000 deaths, 22,000 injuries, and the destruction of more than 500,000 homes. Could a larger earthquake strike Dingri County in Tibet? Experts suggest that after a major earthquake, multiple aftershocks are typically observed in the epicentral area and nearby regions. It is expected that perceptible earthquakes could still occur in the affected area in the coming days. Meanwhile, in Yinchuan, Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region, frequent earthquakes have raised the alarm. The city recently experienced 56 minor quakes in a single day, leaving residents on edge. According to data from China's National Earthquake Science Data Center, on the morning of January 2nd, a 4.8 magnitude earthquake struck Yongning County, Yinchuan City. Later that afternoon, at around 5 p.m., a 4.6 magnitude quake hit the Jinfeng district of Yinchuan. Over the course of the day, 56 smaller tremors were recorded, with aftershocks causing widespread fear and even panic-driven evacuations. The fear of a larger earthquake has led many Yinchuan residents to flee the city, resulting in days of heavy traffic congestion. Others opted to leave via public transportation, crowding local train and bus stations.
It's crazy, absolutely crazy. There have been multiple earthquakes in one day, and so many people are leaving Ningxia. Most of the larger groups are being evacuated in an orderly manner. I was feeling disorientated at home during the day and couldn't sleep at night. After staying awake for 3 nights, I couldn't take it anymore. My nerves were shot. Every time I lay down, I felt like there was another quake. I finally packed up and escaped overnight. Now I'm in an area around Shanxi, but it feels like I have earthquake PTSD. I keep feeling like the bed and windows here are shaking too. What am I supposed to do?
On Douyin, people in Yinchuan shared videos showing traffic jams as residents tried to flee the city. Crowds were also reported at train stations and gas stations. Everyone's running. The atmosphere has reached this point. There's no choice but to leave. You're running? Fine. I'll run too. Whether you have money or not, just go. You only get one life. One Yinchuan resident shared that people have been preparing for potential earthquakes daily, and about half the city has already left. Schools have canceled classes and exams. Another resident reported that the strongest recent earthquake measured 5.2, with aftershocks occurring daily. Many families are spending the night in their cars to stay safe.